have Miss Bridget coming up next, and kind of a sister from another mother. Of course, I've got a lot of sisters from another mother running around out there ever since, I met Bridget. I think she was another one. It's like, oh, we're going to have this 15-minute conversation or 30-minute conversation that went on for hours. And she has just been a godsend to me, and it has helped me with creative processes, and is always supportive of the Wish Alliance by helping to send people to Clubhouse so that they can hear what's going on Thursday night. So I don't know how she's doing it, but she's got the mic here and she's got the phone here. And but I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce her.
No, I just wanted to say, when I met Bridget on Clubhouse, I said, who is this woman with this soothing voice? And she had a lot of beautiful high energy, totally in alignment with the Wish Alliance. I knew she had to be part of our team here, Sheila and Neil, and be part of bringing this bigger cosmology, this bigger vision of incarnation to the planet. So I actually don't know her walk-in story, but she is multidimensional on many levels, all levels of awareness. So I'm very curious of how she fits her guidance into this particular weekend. So Bridget, are you there? Are you ready for us? Are we ready for you?
Are you? I think you are.
I think we are. Wait, can you lower your camera? Can you lower your camera a little bit so we have more of you, that red hair?
Is that better?
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So I think you got to know Bridget better than I do after those hours and hours of conversation, Sheila. So what else do you want to say?
Well, I think that Bridget is what I would call a brilliant wordsmither. You're kind of a word weaver, and you're able to hear what other people have to say, pull it together into a context that is easily understandable for no matter who you're talking to, because you've got a worldwide audience that's listening to you. So that takes a lot of knack and a lot of finesse. And I appreciate your bringing those skills to the Wish Alliance as well. And I can't wait to hear what you have prepared for us.
Yes. I'm excited too, because I'm also curious what you think of this whole thing and all these different levels and interpretations of the incarnational experience. Do you want to start there, or just go do your own thing?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to Alan, Sheila, and Neil. Thank you very much, you guys. This is amazing. I have loved every minute of this that I've been able to listen, which is most of it. But also, I'm so grateful and thankful for all of you who are joining us in this co-creation and helping to create this beautiful energetic container and allowing these conversations and the energetics of these conversations to ripple outward from each of us into the collective consciousness. It's amazing. And I'm so deeply grateful for all of you. Alan, you had said at the end of yesterday, until yesterday, I didn't realize that I always thought of myself as walk-in adjacent, starseed, very multidimensional. And then I'm listening to Sheila, and my soul team brings in an experience that I had when I was 21. I was in a very, very, I had lost all hope. Heartache after heartache. The collective was so intense. I had no understanding of how to live in a 3D world. And I was to a point where I was like, enough. And of course, I'm 21 years old. So, you're pretty emotional still at that, or at least I was. I don't know if everybody was, but, it's pretty emotional. And I mean, I had cried for the earth more times than I could count. And so I was going to do an exit, and I knew how to do it. I just instinctively knew how to do it. I had seen the waiting room when people were crossing over, and I'm sorry if this is a trigger for anyone that's listening. Just follow me and you'll see a good good ending to this. Obviously I'm here and I'm doing this now, so there's a very good ending. But I knew instinctively how to remove my consciousness from my body. And so I created a dimensional space in the space that what I call the waiting room is. And it was beautiful and white. And I gave myself an out in case I wanted to change my mind, because that's very me. And I was like, okay, if I get in there and I, have some sort of epiphany or whatever, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm like on the other side going, dang it, why didn't I give myself an out? So, and this is so my personality at the time too. And I was really sassy, a lot sassier than I am now. So the rest of the story, you're going to be like, what? But so I'm in there and I'm down to the last moment. And I was like, okay, my body's going to do this and then I'm going to exit. And as soon as I had that intention, the entire space turned this, a blood red colored, like a deep red that it was energy, right? So, and the feeling just shifted and it felt like my soul got slapped with a ruler. And I was like, what is happening? And then this booming, like, angel voice is the only thing I can say, came in, and it wasn't an archangel. I know exactly who they were at that time. I'm thinking it was one of the upper echelon angels, but they they came in and it was like in this huge voice that like echoed through my soul, was like, you cannot do this. And I, being the sassy 21-year-old that I was like, F that, I'm doing this. And then it was again, you cannot do this. And I was like, well, then why? And we had a back and forth argument, mainly me arguing and the voice telling me that I had not completed what I came here to do, and that there was so much that I was going to bring in the world, and that I was absolutely not able to do this. And me being me was like, well, I'm exiting unless I get these things. And so I was like, I need instant access to any information that I want, both about this world and beyond. I need 100% to know, these things. And I just went through a list of things that I needed. Basically, it was all about understanding the 3D life and how to live here and to be able to exist in this world in a way where I didn't feel, completely overloaded by everything, all of the things that felt so foreign to me as a soul, right? And I think a lot of us come into this world and we have that feeling of what is wrong with this place, right? Well, I remember being 2 years old, feeling into the collective, knowing that things were off here. It wasn't a judgment, it was an observation. Not sure why, but every time I felt into the collective, there was that kind of feeling. And I said, I need to know why I'm here, what I'm here to do, and all of these things. Well, I had taken, like, I don't know, 3 pills, right? It wasn't like anything enormous. It was just to relax myself. And the next thing was going to be something much more intense. But I slept for 2 days, which is not what those would have made me do. So in those 2 days, during dreams time, they were explaining all kinds of things to me. They were talking, about the most minute thing to the most, what we would consider big. And they were explaining a lot of things. When I woke up, when I went to sleep, I had that feeling of hopelessness, right? Of despair, really. And then when I woke up, I was filled with hope. I was filled with light. And one of the things that I did remember, because I didn't remember what they had told me, I had the imprint of it, right? But one of the things I did remember is they had said, you will feel the shifts and the changes over the next coming weeks and months. And they specifically said within 3 months that I would feel dramatically different. Well, I already did, right? I felt a light within myself that I hadn't felt in a little while, like a few years. And I knew that everything was going to be okay. My team was still, and I was still communicating with my team during this, who probably called this being in, would be my guess, because I was having one of those, what I like to call independent moments, where I don't listen to them. But honestly, it was one of the best things that had happened to me. At that point, I had already had access to, pretty much a lot of different types of information, but it took it to a completely different level. And what I understood at the time through what my team was telling me, I called it a step-in experience. And what I understood was that a higher aspect of me like an aspect of my soul had dropped into my human existence to assist me. And this went on for 22 years. I'm older than I look. And so it went on for 22 years. And I was able to, like, if I had a question about a nebula, all of a sudden I was there within my mind's eye. It was live in color in person. I was getting all the information about it. I mean, it didn't matter if it was on Earth or off of Earth, you know, even walking by a person and having just an intention of hoping they're okay. All of a sudden I was downloading information and had to learn to be real careful about being in other people's business, right? Because that was just naturally happening. So I had to learn, you know, that that's theirs and that I would, you know, direct my focus only when guided. But initially it was everything. All the information was always available. I still have that now, but there came a point, I was doing a specific type of channeling that I hadn't done with my team in a really long time, like years. And I was doing it for one of my friends, and then I felt, and it had been years. You guys remember there's 22 years in between, right? So it had been years. So I had forgotten all about the step in at this point. And I felt what felt like an aspect of myself leave. And this is during a period of time that I was going through a massive depression. It was like a dark night of, well, not yet dark night of the soul, but it was a massive depression because I was hiding from what I was here to do in the world, right? Hindsight's 2020. I was playing small. I had put myself in a sort of, you know, partial spiritual hibernation because they had showed me a timeline that I was on, that I was going to be like this spiritual Oprah or something. And it was way too much. I was going to have to go blonde. You guys know I love my red. I was going to have to go like really vanilla in all of my attire and the things that I love about being human and the persona aspects of it. At that time, you know, all those years ago were really important to me then. And so I was like, no, but what was the main thing about that was that I was shown all of the hardship that would come with it as well. And it was like attacks from people being nasty for no reason, and all of the, you know, the things that were going to happen interpersonally within relationships that I developed. And so it was just all of this, like, too much, right? It was too much. So what I did was I put myself into a sort of spiritual hibernation where I was still doing the things that I do with my team and things like that in very close to home ways, right? So like with my friends and my family and things like that. But I wasn't stepping up and into the reason that I've come here, right? Which is this and more, right? So cut to being massively depressed, channeling for a friend for the first time in a depressed state, which is lifting me out of the depression. And then I feel like a part of myself leaves. And my team is being very hush hush about it. And I was in despair again. And I instantly went into a dark night of the soul. And through that, I began to remember and recognize that this was part of spurring me on. And I know it sounds really strange, but if I hadn't had that dark night of the soul, I wouldn't have had some conversations with some friends and family, my husband included. And I wouldn't have had that understanding again within myself that it was time to come out of hibernation. And that's what all of this is about. And it spurred me on to an understanding that that higher aspect of my soul can be attained and achieved and embodied through raising my consciousness, raising my vibration, but also through service work, right? So doing what I'm here to do. And as I've over the years have continued to step into the next level, even if it was slow at sometimes, right? Or like molasses in others, it has shown me that I now have this, you know, each step forward is a heightening. Each step forward is a raising of the frequency. Each step forward is an expansion of my consciousness, bringing more of my soul light into the human experience, therefore having more codes and frequencies for communication with anyone and everyone, right? So it's been this beautiful gift, all of these things. I don't feel like a part of me is missing. In fact, I am pretty pretty happy with where I am right now in my life. There's some aspects that I'm still playing with, right? Of course, because I'm human. But I'm at a point now where I understand how some things work, and in a way that it's I don't know, it just feels good, right? It just feels really good to be human. And I love being here at this in this time of humanity's evolution and consciousness and being a part of it. So that is my walk-in experience. But what's funny is I didn't know. I called it a step in. I didn't know until Sheila said that it was a soul infused walk-in. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I had no clue when I agreed to step in for Karen, who I hope is feeling better, sending her lots of healing energy, that I would be talking about this aspect of myself. So I'm going to move to my knowingness about walk-ins. I have this inner deep knowingness about walk-ins and how we feel about them outside of the human experience. There is a reverence about them, not the kind of reverence that puts them on a pedestal and, you know, separates them from us. The kind of reverence that this particular experience and type of service holds in like a loving high regard, that kind of a reverence. And it's like I've known several, well, many walk-ins over the years who identified as walk-in. And there's something about them that I just really, I don't know, I always feel this. And those of you who are maybe walk-in adjacent, you might feel this. There is a period of integration, right? And then within that period of integration, it's like coming into purpose in a way that is clear and crystal clear, right? So it's like they know why they're here. They figure that out. They know why they're here. They come in, you know, wherever they do within the life. And it's like they are free of the karmic bonds unless they choose them, my team is saying right now, within their life going forward. And they are bringing this specific type of frequency into the collective to expand the consciousness of each of us as individuals, but also as a collective, which we're all here for that. But there's a specific frequency that they do where they bring in those masteries without as much shielding, you know, the blinders, right? So they step into their purposes. And what I find is interesting is we have, you know, walk-ins like Sheila, right, who is doing it in a, you know, a larger way. But we also have walk-ins like Jim, who is doing it, you know, in a way that really brings in that oneness and unity with our planet and all of our co-inhabitants, which is bringing that unity consciousness in again. And as a galactic ambassador for unity consciousness, I can really just get into the walk-in experience and what you all bring into the world. So metaphorically, I was thinking about this last night. I've only had a couple days to prepare for this, but I was thinking about this last night, and I was like, walk-ins turn lemons into lemonade. And often this is kind of a physical thing, but I'm speaking more energetically, right? So lemons are delicious on their own, right? They have that, you know, juicy sourness, which I'm super into. But when you bring it to lemonade, it takes the lemon's essence, sweetens it, right? Then adds water to it, which is life here, if you think about it, and then makes it highly shareable and gives it thirst quenching, you know, properties, right? So if you think about that, that's kind of how I see walk-ins, not to call you all lemons and lemonade, but it's that same thing, right? Like who doesn't, well, maybe some of you don't, but you know, on a hot summer day in the South, if someone's giving away lemonade, you say yes. You know what I mean? It's, first question probably is it country time or is it fresh squeezed? But yeah, you say yes, right? So my soul team is really bringing in, you know, there is a kind of a connection with, you know, the symphony also. This is something I'm going to shift gears real quick. So they were talking to me last night and a couple days ago about this. And what they show me about the symphony is they show me the connection energetic grids of all, right? And so they show me like how we connect as individuals within our own. So you can imagine it like golden white light spider webs of energy that are coming from us all. And they show the connection of all of us on the planet with one another in the human experience of this earth experience. But then they show the connection of all of the co-inhabitants and how all of that creates this really finely woven light grid with our planet included, hers included in that, which is a much bigger you know, light strand coming from her. And then they show how that connects with all of our, you know, planetary bodies, both seen and unseen at this time within our solar system, and all of the, and they just kind of expand it out and out and out. And they speak about walk-ins as a particular connection with the symphony. So I'm just going to kind of read what they said because I don't have it memorized. And I think the way I wrote it when they brought it through is really going to pack a punch for you. So my soul team shows me the symphony of connection. Every human life is an instrument, and the inhabiting soul a musician who is playing their role in the symphony of all. When creating a symphony, adding instruments builds the refined complexity of the overall musical piece. Removing instruments from a symphonic masterpiece changes the flow, feel, and complexity of sound. So walk-ins are an agreed upon type of service to exchange and upgrade instruments and musicians within the symphony upon request. And that's what they brought through. And I feel like this, I'm gonna get chills because they're giving me the energy. Hopefully you guys are feeling that. But I really get chills about that because every life on the planet, and especially after the story I just told you, I wouldn't have been here. There's so many of you that wouldn't have been here. Every life on this planet and beyond is important, is integral to the collective oneness experience. Every expression in existence is integral to the collective oneness experience. So it throws things off balance and has to be rebalanced in another way when one of us chooses an exit before the many, many exits that we have planned for us within our own blueprint, right? We give ourselves tons of exits, right? So really, it's all about walk-ins, and many who experience NDEs, whether they're a walk-in or not, bring forth this higher dimensional frequency that is higher than the original host soul's life left as, right? So what this means is that it accelerates the heightening and evolution of consciousness within the collective earth experience. And so that's essentially how I see walk-ins. We all do those types of things in our own way as we begin to expand and raise our consciousness and remember who we are, right? So that's kind of what I wanted to say about walk-ins. And I hope that all of this has helped ring some bells for you and validate things that you've already experienced. And now I'm going to shift a little bit, and I'm going to shift into some personal stories of my own remembrances and channeled information, communication with my guides, but also beyond quantum healing hypnosis experiences. And this is, oh, and I think some of it came through meditation and consciousness traveling as well. But my hope with this is, with all of these stories I'm about to tell, is to validate you, of course, in your own knowingness, but also to act as keys to really help expand your consciousness in spaces that you may have not quite expanded with, and at the very least to help you shift perspectives, which is kind of one of my things. So I invite each and every one of you on a journey with me of stories about learning about my own soul and my multidimensionality. And so kind of where I fit in within the cosmos and how that works for me. So as a Beyond Quantum Healing hypnosis practitioner, I have experienced so many sessions that I have facilitated and guided and hosted with clients where they experience the birth of their soul. They experience who they are in their galactic lives, their multi-universal lives, and things like that, right? So when I was with one of my friends, I was actually facilitating her journey, guiding, I like to say co-creating her journey for her. The architects of creation came through. And my understanding from my team from many years ago, they explained the architects of creation, and they have many names, right? This is just a label. They explained the architects of creation as the third step down from source. So source is one, then there's two, then there's three, then there's four, the architects of creation, right? And it's essentially, source expressing, in the beginning, when source wanted to express in a different way, right? We'll just keep it real simple. So the architects of creation came in, and they were, of course, I have the ability to kind of see and experience what my clients are seeing, experience to a degree, right? And sometimes I'm deeper in than others. It just depends on what's going on in my life that day, right? And in this one, I was super deep in with my friend. And so we're having this session, and they step forward, and all of these amazing things are happening on her behalf. But then they bring me into the session, which does happen sometimes, which I don't expect it, but it is fun when it went to get brought into it and see that soul connection that I have with a friend or a client or someone like that. So in that session, a lot of things happened, but one of the things that I thought was very interesting is they showed me the birth of my soul. And in showing me the birth, and it was both of us actually, but in showing me the birth of my soul, it was a glimpse. It was like a probably would have taken less than 30 seconds what they showed me, and gave me the experience of, as I'm still guiding her, right? And then they showed me going into, and I knew it was a fast forwarded version, right? Into a specific we'll call it galaxy. But at that time, it was a much smaller solar system. And I was like, okay. And then they kind of expanded into time, which it doesn't really happen for them, right? But it was like they fast forwarded and showed me the galaxy. And I think they said something in the session too, but I understood that it was Andromeda. So I was like, oh, another frequency. Because until that had happened, I was activated with Pleiades, Sirius, Arcturus, Lyra, and then came Andromeda. And I was like, okay, so I really am an energetic, cosmic, as Sheila says, Heinz 57. I usually say mutt because mutts are awesome dogs. But yeah, so this happened. And then later, I'm in a meditation with my friend Doris Moran, and I experienced an aspect of my Andromedan. I actually split into 3 different parallel versions of myself. And in this meditation, I experienced all 3 of them simultaneously. And that's a story for another day. But the tie-in with that story is that I experienced myself as an Andromedan in a way that was so surreal. I mean, it was so beautiful and so surreal. So then again, there's the Andromedan connection. So I'm left with this curiosity. My team's being kind of mums the word about it. And usually when my soul team, who are the beings that I communicate with and have since birth, we all have one. Usually when they're quiet about something, it's because it's designed for me to go into that curiosity and seek, right? Seek within myself and, call in the remembrance. And so I had a session. I had my second Beyond Quantum Healing with Brittany Lynn, who you guys probably know from Awaken Ascending with myself and 4 other people, sorry, 4 of our other besties. So I had a session with her, and I bring in these questions about Andromeda. And I'm like, I want to know about my entire history in Andromeda. Well, little did I know that tri-location thing was going to be kind of smoked in the dust, right? I don't think I got that phrase right, but you guys know what I mean. It was going to be left in the dust. I'm not good at those. So I am coming in and they show me, you know, I feel myself as source, as isness really, with a consciousness, but not really like a form of any type. It was a consciousness form, but it was very expanded, like I was part of a whole. So I did have an understanding of being, but there was not any creator aspect to it, right? So the architects of creation, one in particular, they work as one, but they expressed to me as individuals that work as one. So it's very interesting. Some of you will understand what that means. So she's part of the divine feminine, two are divine feminine, two are divine masculine, though I'm hearing right now they both hold both. But the way she expresses to me is divine feminine. So she birthed my soul. So it was like becoming, it was just becoming. I don't know how to describe this. This is something I haven't really worked out how to get a good description for you guys, but it was becoming made into form and light, all information, light, all of the things, right? The wisdom and the knowingness of all of existence in soul form. That's kind of what it felt like. And also, while this was happening, our universe was being created. And so I am one of many souls that had been created, and we're just kind of hanging out observing. We are observing this tiny little solar system being created, and it is the first thing within the universe. And this is how I perceive it. I know a lot of people think Lyra is the first, but after this, I believe Andromeda is. So I'm experiencing these worlds being created, going from almost, like building blocks into actual, planets and heavenly bodies, so to speak, because not all of them were the same. And, stars and different things like that. And we're just hanging out, watching and observing, really excited. But we're also helping with the energetics of what is being created. And this is a kind of pop in, observe, add, it's almost like adjusting things. And we got to a point where one of the planets within this tiny little solar system, probably not much bigger than ours, or at least what we can visibly see now, got to a point where we could actually do something with it. And so we went in creating there was a weird, like, kind of blobby thing the first time we did it. Then the second time was a humanoid form, but it did not look anything like us. I mean, it barely had any kind of features. It did have some stuff like eyes, but it was just really, it was almost like something you'd see in claymation. I mean, it was not workable. But the main purpose of that one was to bring frequencies and codes and see what it was like to have an incarnation process. And so we're seeing what it's like to have an incarnation process in these kind of bluish guys that didn't really have a sex. They were just real 101, like 101 humanoid existence. And so what they were showing me, I'm breaking down one view for you, but what I was seeing in this session was all of the lives that I ever existed as an Andromedan simultaneously, with deep dives into a few of them that were really, really fun and that were pertinent to the information that I was happening. So it was like I was just accessing thousands of lives all at the same time. And this is so how my team works with me sometimes, is they just push the baby bird out of the nest. I thought 3 lives at once was a big deal in the meditation. And now they're like, have all of them. And so I'm like, oh, this is nice. So what happens as I'm watching all of these transpire is, and I'm going to put it in a very linear way because it was happening simultaneously, right? So we created forms until we got, there's a hot mic. Okay. So we created forms until we got forms that were humanoid-ish and worked really well with the energetics of being, really just being out, within an incarnation. We'll just say that. And what we ended up with was very human-ish. It was very humanish looking, but it held a lot more energy because we were in a higher dimension. And so what we did is we traveled. So we traveled through all of the planets that were in our system. By this point, the galaxy had been expanded, and it was being created, you know, more and more and more of the universe had been created. And I'm talking thousands and thousands of years. So we just went and explored, and there were still home base, right? Many home bases actually, within what we would call the Andromeda Galaxy. And we explored and explored, and our physiology shifted, and we became much more energetic, especially those of us that were what we would call the origin, um, the souls that were created first for this experience, I should say. And so, you know, many, many more were created, right? So we filled a galaxy. And as we became higher dimensional, we actually began to create life ourselves, right? So, and this is something my soul team has told me for a very long time. When a race or a species reaches a specific level of consciousness expansion, we create life. That to us, in the way that we label things, would also be equated to a dimensional level of expression within ourselves. So, so we were creating life. We were moving through, you know, the Andromeda Galaxy, then we moved beyond into others, and we were continuing. And the last life that I saw was actually the one that I met in the meditation, who came to meet me in the meditation with my friend Doris. And she is now what we would consider an architect of a sub-architect of creation. So they're the beings who work with the architects of creation. They can create things, they can do all of these different things. They're very much creator beings, as we are. But they also can, if they want to pop into an incarnation, they can do that. They can do all kinds of things, right? So I believe that every human on the planet has something like this, right? This is my personal perception, my personal understanding is that we don't come here unless we have mastery upon mastery upon mastery upon mastery upon mastery, which is why I'm telling you these stories. It is not that I am special, it is that this is who we are at the very core essence of who we are and who we've been. We are infinite. This is one tiny little planet in what my team says, and I know I've said this so many times before, on a newer planet, in a newer solar system, in a newer galaxy, in a newly, we'll say, created part of the universe. And as infinite beings, we have all lived and are living so many lives simultaneously. So I'm gonna see if I missed anything in my notes real quick. No, I think that's it. Yeah, so that is that story. So my intention with that story is to help you. I can't see your name. I'm sorry, I've been looking at a really bright light. I'm glad you're resonating. So yeah, that's who we are. So my next thing that I'm going to talk about, I think I just did that. Okay, yeah. So my soul team over the years, like I just said, they've always told me that we are infinite beings expressing in many forms simultaneously, right? So if we take that, they also tell me that we are all of the densities and dimensions within ourselves, right? We've all, I'm sure most of us on this summit, this conference have an understanding of that. So what they also say is that as we begin to remember who we are choosing and becoming higher dimensional expression, right? And with that, we will naturally access the knowingness that we have used the illusions of separation and forgetting to hide from ourselves. So that's where things like what I'm telling you right now come into play, right? I've had so many experiences in my life, and it's because, well, I came in to support during this time period. Number one, that was part of my mission, is to be support during this time period and to access my remembrances and knowingness in a very lonely life for a lot of the life, I have to say, where I was one of the only in my, immediate friends and family that was as expanded as I was. But I did all of that because of where we are right now, right? I'm here for this time period now, and whatever to come, whatever unfolds after this is kind of cherry on the top for me. But also, I've had so many experiences because I ask a lot of questions. I think I was born with a question in my mouth. I'm sure my first word was why. I don't know. We'll have to ask my Nana, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I was raised in a way by my grandparents that they honored those questions. And there was not ever a moment where they said, they didn't answer it or they didn't take the time, and they were grandparents. So they'd had experience to do that, right? So for parents out there that have really inquisitive children, just fire away. Fire away, because that they are accessing remembrances through your answers. But because of all those questions, and an ability to communicate openly with angels and my high self and things as a very small child and have it accepted and honored, I was able to maintain a lot of my multidimensional trueness, oneness, right? So I didn't have that flipping the switch on some things that some people have, right? But this means that I have also had lots of opportunities to expand my consciousness. Every time my soul team brings through information, it is an expansion of consciousness for me. And it may be an aspect that was slumbering, it may be an aspect that was already awakened, but it comes through over and over. Like, more consciousness expansion can always be had. We're just bringing more of our soul light into our human experience, right? So with this, there was a time period where I'm going into another story where my dreams went dark. And I was a prolific dreamer, like prolific. I could remember every aspect of each segment within dreams time, from a very small child all the way up until when this happened as an adult. And it was actually a little traumatic, right? But my first instinct was, oh my gosh, have I, turned something off? Because I will frequently adjust my own energetic technology. This is something you can learn to do if you're not already doing it. Come play with us on Clubhouse in the Awaken Ascending Club. We'll teach you things like this. But what we can do is, just make adjustments, right? Everything is energy. We all have energetic technology. And so I thought, oh, maybe I turned something off or something, I don't know how that works, right? So I was like, maybe I turned something off. So I'm like checking everything and talking to my team, and they're like, you're fine. Nothing has been, you didn't, I will always joke, did I break myself? And I'm always like, did I just break myself? Because really there is no breaking us. But it's funny to me. So I'll do that with my team, and they're like, you're fine. Nothing's been turned off. And so they were being really mum's the word about it. And I was getting frustrated. So before I went to bed one night, and it had been probably 2 months, I don't know, I'm not good with time, but it had been a while since I would wake up in the morning and it was just nothing, like blackness, no memory recall whatsoever. And I was like, So I went to sleep and I was like, I want to know what I'm doing during dreams time. And I was very serious about it. It was one of those like declaration kind of things. And I woke up as a Pleiadian on a ship. And it was a surprise. I knew I held Pleiadian frequencies. I had met, my Pleiadian parallel, some of my Pleiadian parallel lives in meditations and in my both beyond quantum healing sessions. And I'm like, what's going on? So I'm in her, and I am not in control. This consciousness that is me, Bridget, was not in control. And it's her life. And I'm just kind of hanging out in her consciousness with her. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. And the first time I'll kind of mix a lot of the times together for the shortness, to keep the story shorter, but because it has been a recurring thing ever since. So if you guys want to know what you're doing during dreams time, just utilize that free will. And make the declaration. But beware, it may be something super strange, even stranger than this. So make sure you're ready, because if you're afraid, it won't happen again for a while, at least in my experience. So I was not afraid, and I was hanging out with her, wondering if she knew that I was there, right? And so I'm hanging out with her, and she, of course, I had that wondering, and she focuses her mind while she's working with the most amazing energetic technology ever that I'm still trying to bring into this world and put words to it. But she's working and she just visualizes, like zooms her what I call first eye, third eye, down to my body sleeping in my bed in the pajamas that I was in, my husband right next to me. I mean, that it was me. And I was like, oh, so you know I'm here, you know? And then over time, you know, I basically asked questions, right? And one of the questions is, what are you doing? Because she showed me, and I've also seen through consciousness traveling and meditation experiences, that she's in an enormous Pleiadian mothership that is stationed outside of Earth. And it's really actually the one that she's at is toward the top of Earth, but they're so big that if you look at them from outside of the Earth, they take over, like, say, here's the sphere of the Earth. They take like this much of the Earth. I mean, they're enormous. And it's like, I don't know, like a continent. It's so big in there. But you know, they are our particular council. I'll say we because we are one. Our particular council is assisting Gaia with her energetics. Now, there are so many other councils within that ship that are actually assisting with the ascension, but there are some that are focused more on humanity, others more on other things. But she is part of a council. We are part of a council that is focused on Gaia's ascension and her energetics. And I'm monitoring her very closely in direct communication with her because she is an actual sentient being. And, you know, that kind of a thing. Now, that's about as much as I've been able to bring back, other than kind of what the technology looks like, which I might say for another day, because that's not really what this is about. But the point of this is I've also woken up as another Pleiadian, two others actually, on different ships, one that's traveling. And this story I'm simply going to tell just because of the energetics that are around reptilians right now. And I heard something, I saw something in the chat, and this is where my unity consciousness comes in. And I would love to help some of you expand a little bit of, and just invite you to be open to what I'm about to say. And it is a very gentle, soft story. So I am not coming at you hard at all with this. So I have woken up as one of my Pleiadians and my Pleiadian parallel lives, I should say, because they are not mine. And we are standing in front of, I'm with someone that I love. I love them wholeheartedly, deeply, and intently. And we are standing in front of a enormous picture window in a Pleiadian ship. You know what they feel like if you've been on them enough. It's like the best feeling. But these viewing spaces can be created with intention. And so we're in this big, long picture window because that's how we like it. And we are communicating via consciousness without using words or language. And we are communicating about things that are going on in our life. And she is much taller than me, even though as Pleiadians, we are much taller than humans. So we're sitting there talking, and she has an emotional body. She is so loving. She is an energetic technician. And I know all of these things about her because that's, you know, how it is when you step into another parallel version, when you're within their consciousness. And we are just resonating in oneness is a really good way of describing it. And she said something really sweet, and I turned to look at her, the Pleiadian turned to look at her, and she is reptilian, and she's beautiful. She's so beautiful. And she is a part of what I call the Galactic Federation of Light. Some people call it the Galactic Federation of Worlds. There's a bunch of human labels for it. There's also a bunch of different stories about it. I'm a galactic ambassador for this particular group that is a part of the Confederation. And I actually have multiple parallel lives that are ambassadors in various ways. I'm sure most of us do. So with that, there's an understanding that comes with this. And I'm just going to use this moment to bring that up. And I'm going to check the time to make sure I'm not super over. With that comes an understanding that as humans, it's really easy for us to want to personify and villainize. And I ask you to look within yourself and see the oneness understand the unity, and know that while my team, as they do say this in Clubhouse rooms, there are select smaller groups of reptilians and other types of beings that are playing within the control constructs with humanity and Earth right now. But from a higher perspective, this is an agreement that we have made for the experiences that we have had leading to where we are now. And I like to bring in the dimensional experiences into this. From what I have remembered and experienced and expressed through my accessing many of my dimensional parallel lives, in fifth dimension and middle to upper fourth dimension, and it's not as linear as this, but I'm just going to give you kind of an example. We understand ourselves in unity consciousness, and that we are all source, and that we are love. Every being that exists, fifth dimension, technically middle, fourth, and above, that is the foundation for that, right? So everything above fifth, that is a foundation building block of the fifth dimension. There's so much more to it, but those are foundational building blocks. So if we're looking at control constructs, that would leave the third dimension and layers within the fourth. If we look at the amount of beings that are expressing in higher dimensions versus those that are expressing in the lower, there are many reptilians that are expressing in higher dimensions. There are also many reptilians in the third and the lower fourth that have no play in the control constructs with humanity. And I speak this with conviction because it is my remembrance and my understanding and my knowingness. So I would invite you to really look at that energetic. Every time you hear someone blame an entire species or race for something that humanity is also creating and co-creating, that is a thread that leads to something else that is holding us within the control constructs with these beings. And my team told me many, many years ago when I was asking about lower vibrating beings and the control constructs, they said it's time to let everyone out of their contracts. They have all been playing with this for so long. It is time to let everyone out of their contracts. And I was like, oh, I get it now, right? And for me, that's agreements, right? We can use, some people don't like the word contract. You can use agreement. So my invitation to anyone that is feeling like there's an oppressive energy that they're connecting with is look within and see why you're resonating with that. Look in your own energetics and look at your own multidimensionality and begin to peel away the layers of the onion within your own expression. Because when we are not resonating with something, it doesn't exist in our reality anymore. So when we have pulled the last strand of that energetic that the collective has been playing with in a control construct from within each of us, then it will exist no more within our reality. So that is the truth that I know to be true. So I think I might be, I don't know, Sheila, Alan, how much more time do I have? Do I have time for another story or do I need to wrap it up? I don't know. I can't really see my clock.
I can't get to my agenda. I think you, if you want to tell another short one.
No, this is a long one. They can come on Clubhouse and hear it.
Okay. You want to tell people about Clubhouse real quick?
Yeah, I'll tell them about multiple things. Yes. So Clubhouse is a drop-in audio only app. You have a little profile pic, you have a bio, you can link your Instagram and Twitter, and I think something else. But really, you come in and you find the spaces that you resonate with. And we create rooms within clubs. So the club is a name, and you can join the clubs and get notified about the rooms. And I co-create a club with Brittany Lynn, Nimesh Radia, Sonia Lee, Denton Bricker, and Faye K is what she goes by there. And we are the admins, the co-creators of Awake and Ascending. And we hold rooms every Monday and Friday at 4:30 Pacific and 7:30. Am I doing that backwards? No, yeah, that's right. 7:30 Eastern and 12:30 a.m. UK, depending on where you are in the world. And we're also starting a Wednesday afternoon room just to see how that goes, because we've had people outside of the continental US that have said they want to join us for rooms. So that's Brittany's brainchild. But we're all activated starseeds. We all have our own specializations and masteries, and of course, our own commonalities. And if that sounds like something fun or interesting, you can come and hang out with us. I am also, as you can see on my name, I am also at BridgetReneeHolliday.com, and that is the word bridge with one T, Renee with 3 E's, as Alan so funnily pointed out to me. I usually say 2 E's because some people will put an AE at the end, but and then holiday with 2 L's. That's really important, like Doc Holiday.
Hey, Bridget, can I
So
just ask
yeah,
you the relationship between the star seeds and the walk-ins? What would you say? I mean,
well,
it
I
could be
just feel
both,
like
I guess.
we're here doing very similar things, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about bringing in higher frequencies, grounding them into the human experience, and normalizing the conversations around these things. These walk-ins are coming to light, and starseeds are coming to light because it's time to break the molds. It's time to break the boxes that we've been playing in for so long. We cannot take that with us within our own fifth dimensional experience that is then, reflected into our external reality. Creating new earth happens within us and then it's reflected externally, right? So those things are not resonant with fifth dimensional expression. So it's coming to break the mold of what is normal, of what is viewed as appropriate, of what is viewed as, whatever it is, right? So it's part of that. And star seeds, I think, are a little easier initially, so that cushioned the entrance for the walk-in to be more in a public, be viewed in a more public way, I think, in a way that, well, we already had star seeds. These people know that Earth is not their primary home. We've got the government talking about UFOs are real. We don't know what it is. We've got all these things happening. And it's a perfect time for walk-ins to say, hey, we're here for this. And this is our experience. It's just to broaden the collective understanding, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, of what is our multidimensional nature. And it's just another example of our multidimensionality, as all those stories that I told are as well, right?
Yeah. No, I
The
agree. I
potential.
agree. I like what you're saying. Stephanie, right? Do you work with Stephanie?
Yes,
Well, she's
Steph.
coming up.
We love
And
her.
Sheila, what about Bridget doing a little introduction to Stephanie? I think you want us to do something too. Are you with us,
Be
Bridget?
absolutely great. Is Stephanie with us?
She is coming on. Let's see if
I think
Neil.
we're a little early, so she
Yeah,
may not.
we
Let me
are.
check and see.
Yeah,
Oh, we are a little early. Well, we have
we're
about
early.
what,
That's why I was saying, if Bridget wants to go ahead and tell that other story, we do have the time.
Oh,
Okay.
wait. Oh,
Yeah, we have
so
like 30
Stephanie's
minutes,
not
right?
coming on for another 15 minutes. Sorry, I thought we
Yeah,
were.
it's okay.
Oh, okay, no, good. We have 15 minutes. Go ahead, Bridget. Yes.
Well, I'll just tell one. I'm not gonna. I'll save the Lyran story for another moment. But maybe we can have a fun room or something with that. It's been a minute since we've done that in Awaken Ascending. But one thing that I would describe is something that my team has been bringing in a lot lately is the way I'm viewing the soul. This is a linear way to understand it. It is not exact, right? So if we can imagine an enormous column of white light, right? And then remember those drawings we do as little kids of Christmas trees where there's like a line and then like a kind of like points come off like this, right? Now imagine filaments coming off of this line in all different directions, right? And from here, attached to every single one of those is a life. So the column is our soul, and we're living multiple lives simultaneously. I've heard many people say that there are specific limitations on the amount of lives we're living simultaneously. I know that comes from somewhere. I think it actually comes from some ancient stuff as well. My personal experience is when I look at the different parallel versions that I have going on, I have more than 12. I have more probably than 25. So I would say maybe there's a revision to that. And that might have been that might be true for some people. But I know for me, I've expressed many different lives simultaneously. I've also had experience as a practitioner, which is very interesting because when I read Dolores Cannon's books, I practice an offshoot of QHHT, which Dolores Cannon created, right? So Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis was created by Candace Crawl Goldman. And my team kept trying to get me to read Dolores's books, but I was like, I don't have time. Well, when I moved to Florida, I had a lot more time. So I listened to the audiobooks, but there was so many validations in those books. If you guys haven't read them, I highly recommend them. But one thing that was happening in my sessions is that when I would be in a life with someone, and this doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened enough that it kind of rings my bell. I would be in a life with someone asking questions, and the person that they were expressing as in the session, we'll call it a past life, becomes conscious of me. And I'm like, we are diving into a parallel life at this moment, right? So this is just another example, guys, that we are living so many lives simultaneously. We are barely scratching the surface. I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface of our multidimensionality, our multi-universal nature, and definitely multi-galactic. I don't know if that's even a word, but you know what I'm saying. So that's what I would say, just burning some time to get everybody's juices flowing. But yeah, Alan, do you know, or Sheila, do you know if there's any questions in the chat for me? I can't see because my iPad's really far away.
Let me see in the
There's
chat.
so many wonderful comments.
Let's
Oh,
read
thank
some
you
of those
guys. Love you.
comments.
Could you talk maybe a little bit more about the councils?
Oh yeah, so we have multiple, I mean, depending on which, I mean, there's so many beings that have councils. Okay, so I am a galactic ambassador with multiple races. I am very conscious that I have 2 Pleiadians that are parallel lives for me that are that are both galactic ambassadors. I also have a Sirius, a person that is Syrian. And I don't know why we spell it with an A. It should be a U, but that's such a stickler for detail thing that I have. But so for those of you that are like me, you're out there going, yes. But so within that, we have councils within most of the races, but there are also councils amongst councils, and we'll just use the word council because that's not exactly what we call them, but it's the closest vibration we have to English that I've found. If any of you know another word, feel free to spell it out for me. I'll use that one. But within,
April says councils imply these entities are appointed or elected. That's what April's comment is about councils.
It really depends on which race and how they do things. We all do things differently. But when we think of a hierarchy, like, you know, politicians or you know, even, I mean, we've got Hollywood royalty, right? We don't have the same kind of thing in most of my experiences. It's more of like, we consciously choose our reality and our consciousness expansion and what we do based on what feels good to us in most of these races. So this would be the frequencies and vibrations that I hold align me with doing this for the collective of all, right? That's how I perceive it. Now, I can't speak for every race and every species out there. I'm speaking for the 2 that I'm talking about now, that I'm referencing now. So the councils do various different things. It just depends on what your specialization is within your own codes and frequencies and what you're choosing in your own personal expression. In our other, I'll just use Syrians and Pleiadians as an example. We consciously create our reality in every moment, and we are aware of it in the higher dimensions. So there is none of this stumbling around, you know, following breadcrumbs. It's a conscious choice, right? I can't see what they said. Okay, so it's a conscious choice to do what we want to do. And there are, within the serious collectives, you know, there are, you know, we do vote on things. There are things that we decide together. And that happens in the conclaves as well. The conclaves where all the races that are part of this, we'll just say federation, that is part of the larger confederation, which is multi-universal as well. So we do decide in oneness because we understand ourselves in oneness. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have, arguments or things like that. It just doesn't escalate to the degree that it does here, right? Because we can reach commonality and we will find a way. And there are those of us that is our job. That is the frequency that we hold and that we chose before incarnating. And we often live a lot longer than humans. So we have, this breadth of experience that we've garnered throughout our entire expression. My particular council, like I said, the one that I worked on, we are, I guess you could call us a form of ascension energetic technician, but it's so much more than that. We don't really have words for what we do yet, or I haven't found them yet. But we work with Gaia, right? If you think about our planet and her energetics and how intricate that is, every one of us, all of the plants, all of our co-inhabitants, are all included in Gaia's energetics. We just most of us haven't remembered that, right? That we are in oneness with her. But we work specifically with her and all of her changes that she goes through. Right now, she has requested, per my understanding, a very gentle ascension. There used to be a timeline my team brought in a long time ago that is now obsolete. And I'm going to repeat that again. It's now obsolete, where there were going to be massive earth changes that were going to really kind of wreck all life on earth. That is now obsolete and has been for a while. Now, that doesn't mean she won't have her own changes, because she too goes through her own evolution just like we do. So from what my team has said, she has been in a period of evolution for quite some time now. And so her decision as a sentient being is to cradle us as she goes through it the best that she can and with assistance. And so that is one reason that there are so many beings who are here. And I mean, if you guys your third eye is even slightly open, just take a look outside of Earth right now in the other dimensions, because it's not in the third and mostly not in the lower fourth. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands. It's like a parking lot. It looks like one of those big football stadium parking lots that like wraps around the stadium. Like that's what it's like. All different kinds of ships, and they're all here for the ascension. Some are observing, others are actually interacting, and some are here for potential timelines that we may or may not choose. So there's always a backup for everything that we choose based on the probabilities. And that's what they do. I do also have another, I don't know if I'm running late on time. I'm not in Steph's time, am I?
You're okay.
Okay, good. I just want to be conscious of that. So there are, I forgot. I lost my thread. Let me see if I can find it again. Okay, so there are multiple timelines, and based on the ones that are in the lead, which right now I'm being shown 4, they assist us in creating backup for us, right? So for like whatever it is, like there is a copy of Earth that is already created and has been for a very long time. We're even working on the energetics of it in case we choose a bifurcation of world. But there's also a timeline where they are running support for us, which is what we're doing on the ship, where and it's neck and neck, but where we are creating new Earth here in the space that we are in. We're not going anywhere. And there are 2 others as well, right? So they create backup and support for all of it. And when I say they, you guys, I think it's time for us to stop looking at them as outside of ourselves, because they are we are they. So really, these are, higher dimensional aspects of our own soul. And most of the beings on our team are a reflection of that. And I wouldn't say all of them within these, what I call star beings, because it's a lot faster than saying, interdimensional, extra-dimensional, ultra-dimensional, and extraterrestrial, right? So, and that could be so many different types of expressions. They could be dimensional planes of existence. It runs the gamut, right? There's so many. But so basically, depending on who we are in that life, we could be a part of a council, we could not. There are also councils that exist outside of the races and species that are in humanoid form, even if they're holding more light, like an Andromedan, right? Or a higher dimensional Pleiadian. So it just depends on which council, I think, Sheila. But in our councils, there are councils for a lot of different things within just the Pleiadian race alone, right? So we have councils for spirituality things. We have councils for, I mean, it's just kind of the way we do things, to keep things on a very unity consciousness, even playing field where everyone has a voice. It reminds me a lot of actually Atlantis, actually, our creations in Atlantis and how we did things too.
Nice, nice, nice. This has been
I hope you guys have had fun.
absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much, Bridget.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, thanks for
So much love
jumping
to all of
in
you.
at the
Yes.
last minute, really, and just doing your thing. And do you have anything you want to say about Stephanie, our next speaker?
I love Steph. So when Steph and I met, it was a lot like when Sheila and I met. When Sheila and I met, she mentioned it was going to be like a short, I think it was 30 minutes, and we were on the phone for like 2.5 hours. And it was the same with Steph and I. We met, and then we spent an entire Saturday. It was like we were catching up on life together, like the spiritual aspects of life together in that Saturday. And we've been connected ever since. And what's amazing is that, Brittany and Namesh and Sonia and Denton and Faye, they all love her too. So she just rolls right into the family, right? And I think they all just, mesh really well together. But she is amazing. She is such a beautiful angelic channel. I hold angelic frequencies as well. I don't often talk about that as much because I'm always here normalizing the conversations around, star beings. But you're in for a treat. This is going to be really good. She's probably just going to stream. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but even her streaming is magical. It is so amazing. So Sheila, I don't know if you have a bio for her to read or not. I could maybe pull.
Sheila, do you want to come on and read a little?
Am I buying
bio
you time? I might be buying Sheila time.
She is our last speaker of the day, and then we have a big panel, and you're coming back for the panel, right, Bridget?
Oh yeah, I'll stay here. I'll be here for it.
Good. Sheila, are you with us?
I am. Give me just 1 second. I had to step away.
Oh, it's okay. I'll just say thank you to everyone for listening and going on the journey with me. Come play with us in Awaken Ascending. If anything that I've talked about is interesting, you can find everything about me on my website that's next to my name. And you guys are in for a treat with Steph. This is going to be really fun. And if you are where you're safe, get somewhere safe, because if she brings in an experience, you want to play with her. It's so good.
Okay.
Well, I just have to say